Today I'm going to work on what I call the skull emblem design. I'm going to show you some of the techniques that I use to create something in Adobe Illustrator, a piece of artwork, maybe it's a logo. In this case, I'm going to use an emblem. And what I will do, just to kick things off here, is I have Adobe Illustrator open. I'm using version 2019. And on my desktop here, I have a JPEG that I have ready to go that I will use in this exercise. So let's go ahead and drag this over top of Adobe Illustrator's icon here on the Mac. And what that does is it brings the image, the JPEG, in on layer 1 over here in my layers panel on the right hand side of my screen. So what are we looking at here? This is a drawing that I did on the iPad, a symmetrical drawing of a design that I'm going to build out in vector shapes. And by the time we get done, it'll be a relatively flat design, but I want to show you some of the techniques that I use to create the vector shapes for this. So let's see what we're going to do here. First is we're going to scale this down. I'm working on a 6x6 square. You can kind of see that through on the background here. And I'm going to scale from the center. So I'm going to hold down my Option and Shift key. And then I will drag any of these little handles on the outside of my artwork, these little handles here, to just kind of get it into position so that I can do the work that I need to do. So let's see, what can we do here to keep it simple? I'm actually going to create it a little bit smaller. That'll give me less travel that I have to take with the pen tool on the screen. So I can create it small and then we can scale it up or down from there. Again, this is a 6x6 area. Now that I have this JPEG size to fit that area, I'm going to come over here to layer 1 and I'm going to double click on it. And then what we'll do here is we will select template. That's going to lock everything down, and I'm also going to dim my image down. I'm going to dim it down to about 25%. These lines are a little bit dark, and that ghosts everything back into the background here. So you can see we have this ghosted locked template layer. And to do the work that we need to do, I need to create a new layer. So let's come down here to the bottom of this layers panel, very bottom, create new layer. You can also do that right here from this little fly out menu. I call that the hamburger menu. And that will create a new layer. We can name it, and we can name it here. Let's name it line work. I'm going to change this light red color for the layer to a dark green. You'll see why in a second. Let's close that, and let's see here, template. We're not going to create that as a template. We're going to go ahead and keep it that way. The very first thing that I do is I switch my fill and stroke color over here in my tools panel on the left hand side. And when I swap that, I get this white stroke. I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to make my line work kind of this hot pink color. Now that I've done that, I've got my stroke color ready to go. I'm going to come over to my stroke panel. If you don't see that, it's under the window menu, stroke. I'm going to pull that out, undock it from the side here so we can take a look at this for a second. So I'm going to show my options. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the line weight to about 0.35. I know it's kind of an arbitrary number, but it seems to work for me. We'll do 0.35 and we can adjust if we need to. The next thing we're going to do is set our cap. Rather than a butt cap here, where it's squared off at the point, we're going to do a round cap. That'll smooth things out a little bit as we work. Same with the corner here. I'm going to switch that to a round join. And I'm going to leave the align stroke as the center alignment here. So these first two, we have the round cap, we have a round join, and the last one here, align stroke to center. So we'll leave that as is. I'm going to grab my pen tool over on the left hand side. Let me dock this again. On the left hand side of the screen from the tools panel, I'll grab my pen tool. And I'm going to put down just a shape here. You're probably asking, why did you do a triangle up there? I like to come over to my graphic styles panel. Again, you can get that just by coming up to Window and selecting graphic styles. And the default graphic style here, we're going to replace that. So what I'm do is I will select this triangle with my selection tool, the black arrow. I'll hold down my Option key when I get inside of the graphic styles box here. I'll hover right over the default graphic style. So it becomes a plus sign here in this case, and I will let go. And you can see my default is now replaced with this preset that I made. So I can delete that now. Click on that graphic style and start working. Okay, so that was a little bit lengthy in the setup. What we'll do now is begin the creation of the artwork. So looking at this, it's fairly complex. We got a lot going on here, a lot of shapes to work with. It's symmetrical, we can see that. So probably the simplest thing to do is, because it is symmetrical, we can go ahead and we'll only have to draw the left or right half of our design for most of this. We may have to do some other things. Let's turn on our rulers. That's Command or Control R. Control on the PC, Command on the Mac. And with our pen tool selected, we will come in here. I'm going to drag out from the left ruler, this vertical ruler. You can barely see it here. I'm going to hold my mouse down and I'm going to drag right to the center of this skull. So you can see in the illustration there is an area right here where you can kind of see a hole that was created. That's just a marker to let us know where the center line is. So let's go and put that there. And we're going to draw this in a series of different pieces. I'll show you some techniques as we go. And again, we'll only have to draw half of what we see. So let's start with the heart here. So I'm going to turn on under View these Smart Guides. You'll see why. If I hover over top of my guide, it gives me a little indicator that I am exactly positioned over the guide. So I will click, and then as I am drawing over here and up to the left, I will hold down my Shift key and just drag out a handle. Not going to worry too much about what it looks like yet. I will also put one here, drag down, and then I will finish everything down here. So again, we're back on the guide. And I'll click. Okay, so it's kind of a wonky looking heart here. I will hold down my Command key. That will give me access temporarily to the Direct Selection tool. That's the white arrow at the top here in the Tools panel. If I hold down Command or Control on the PC and click, I'm out of all the tools, and now we can see our artwork. Now, as I move around the screen, because I have these Smart Guides turned on, these little indicators that you see, the blue lines with the degree measurements, those are the actions of the Smart Guides. So we don't really need those anymore for the heart, but I'll leave them on for now. Actually, you know what? I'll turn them off. Let's go turn them off. So they're now off. What I will do is I still have the pen tool selected. I will get temporary access again to the Direct Selection tool with the Command button on the Mac, and I am going to drag out this handle, the lower one. These are called handles. I'll hold down the Shift key to keep it perfectly vertical, and I'll try to line it up as best I can with the underlying drawing that I've done here. So it's a little bit thicker. You see the pencil lines underneath, a little bit thicker, and we'll try to get these smoother. So maybe I can move this one back, and I can pull this handle out, pull this handle up, and we have a bend in the heart here. I'm just going to leave it straight. I intended for it to be straight, not great with the sketch, but we're going to close this up now. So I'm going to come back to my start point with my pen tool, Pen tool is selected from the Tools panel. I'll click on where I ended. That'll pick up that line again, and then I'll close it up again. So I'm coming back to the beginning here. You see my cursor change, and I click. There we go. All right. So I will try to explain what I'm doing as I go along. I don't want to take it too slow, and I don't want to go too fast. So I'll explain what I can as I go along. Again, we're only drawing half. We don't have to worry about this part yet. In fact, it's better to wait. We're going to do a reflection, and you'll see how great that is in a little bit. So we have this bone here that we're working on. We can start down at this point here, and we're going to follow this curve. I'm going to draw in the direction again, and I'm just following this around. So as I click, I keep my mouse held down, and I drag out a handle in the direction that I want to go, and you can see that I'm able to follow these curves pretty well. So we have a little bend in the bone. I think what I'll do is I will, let's see, I'll put a point here, drag it just a little bit, put a point down here like that. So I'm just dragging. Sometimes I hold down Shift to keep it perfectly horizontal. See, if I do it vertical, it's also the Shift key. 45-degree increments here. Keeps it perfectly vertical, and I find that when I do that, I get a little bit smoother curves. I'm going to bypass this completely. I'm not going to put a point here. Normally I'd put a point on the rightmost edge of this shape, which would be here on that curve. This would be the furthest right. But I'll show you what I'm going to do here. So let's keep this very organic. I'm going to draw it. I'm going to drag it. That's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to put a point here. I'm going to drag out a handle there. And I'll bring it back. Now, again, it looks a little crazy. We'll fine tune it now. Still have my pen tool selected. If I want to add points, I can add points by hovering over the line, and I see a little plus symbol on my pen tool. If I want to delete points, I can hover over existing points that are already created, these anchor points, and I can click, and you see that the cursor has become a pen with a minus sign, indicating that I can delete that. So moving right along here, let me adjust these. I'm going to do this very quickly. I'll explain what I'm doing. I'm going to hold down the Command key and select this first point and drag the handle. Still have my Command key held down. I'm going to drag this other one and try to smooth out this curve here. I'm going to come up and select this next one, still holding down my Command key. I have not let go. And I'm going to try to smooth this one out a little bit more. So you see it's like a seesaw as I'm holding down this Command key. Whatever I do on this side, it impacts what's happening on the other side of this anchor point in the center. Okay, so maybe I'll drag this one a little bit less. Smooth that one out a little bit more. This one looks like it's on the right track. Let's pull this up. Now I'm holding down my Shift key and my Command key to keep it vertical again. I let go of the Shift key. Still got my Command key held down with my thumb. And I'm just dragging these handles out, just fine tuning them as I go. Trying to smooth it out a little bit. You can see this one's a little bit squared off. To correct that, I can hit my Option key now. So I have nothing selected right now. Now I'll go to my Option key that toggles to this tool that's underneath here. It's the anchor point tool. You see it at the bottom. So let's get back there. I can drag the individual handles now. So I might want that one to be a little less than the one below. So now I'm dragging individual handles. The seesaw, in other words, it doesn't happen when I do that. Okay, so now I'm back on my Command key. I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to go a little bit quicker now. So same principles all the way along. I'm going to drag that out. This one I'm going to drag up to try to meet that curve. Now I've run into a little bit of an issue. It doesn't quite look right. So I can do a couple things. I can bend this a little bit more with the Option key. Or I can simply add another point. So this is a long curve. Remember, I tried to do it all at once, but by putting one more point and one more handle in there, that might help smooth things out. I am holding down my Option key, dragging out from the center a little bit, and I'm going to put another point in here and pull that down. So you can see I'm making some progress here. Does it look perfect like the drawing below? Well, the drawing below isn't perfect to begin with. Okay, I'm just making little adjustments here. Again, with the Command or the Option key on the PC is the Alt key. So again, Option on the PC. Whenever I say Option on the Mac, that's the Alt key. I'm going to drag this back in here and kind of reset it. And then I'll pull this one down like that. And I'm just going to fine tune things as I go. I don't really like this curve too much in here. I can turn on my smart guides again, and when I drag this handle back, it will snap onto that. So I've fixed it now. So smart guides do come in handy if you want to snap things back to the original point. Let's go back to this curve. Not really liking this too much. I think what I can do is take this and pull it back to its point of origin, and that kind of smooths things a little bit better. I'm going to pull this up and out, and then let's do that. And so you can see, not terribly happy with it, but that's okay. We're making, you know, there's little adjustments as we go. So let's see here, go there. And a lot of times if you want to see, so you're not getting confused by the drawing below, you can turn off your template layer in your layers panel. There we go. So it looks acceptable to me. I think it can work. This curve up here is bothering me a little bit. There's a little bump in there. So to smooth that out, I can make this a little bit wider. I find that if you are working on something and you want it to look more smooth, try to get your handles on both sides of an anchor point to be relatively the same width or length. And it usually helps kind of smooth things out. So let's see here. I'm going to make this one a more vertical. Let's do that. Pull this in. We'll pull that up. Pull that down. So you can see tiny adjustments are being made. Okay. So enough of that one. Let's move on to this part here, the skull. I'm going to do this a lower part here. Now we got two teeth that meet up in the middle. So what I will do is I will just draw, again, turning on my smart guides. I'll just get over top of that guide, click, and then I'm going to click here, drag. Let's do it. That's a big handle. Let's put it down like that. Let's put a point here, and a point right in there. Now you're looking at that and you say, wait a second, you just have a couple points here. That doesn't make any sense. So what you can do is you can click on this and drag out handles from there. So I'm holding down my Option key on a Mac, and I'm coming back for this handle, still have that Option key held down. Come over to this one, got my Command key, Option key, just toggling between the two. Does it look 100% like the drawing? No. Let me turn off smart guides again. Now I can kind of fine tune these handles the way I want them. So you can kind of see now. I'm going to keep it a little more organic curved. It's a little more fun that way, I think. Let's do that. And then I'm going to come back over here and fix this one. Let's bring that up a little bit like that. So the drawing that you do underneath, if you can get your drawing to be really fine-tuned and and detailed, you'll have a lot better time working on some of this stuff. So let me close this up. I'm going to click there. I'm going to come back to the middle, drag out a handle here, come back. I'm going to turn on my smart guides for a second, bring that one back, turn off my smart guides. I'm doing Command U on the Mac, and it looks pretty good. If I wanted it to follow it perfectly, I could introduce another point in here. Okay. So there we go, moving right along. So we'll see how that looks when we have it reflected. Right now, it doesn't bother me too much. Let's do another one. Smart Guide is on, Command U. I'm going to do this one a little differently this time. So I'm going to put a point here. I'm going to put a point here. Put a point here. You see I'm only dragging out on the lower part to make the curve. This is just a single click. Then I click drag, holding down my shift key to the left, and then I can get that point or that curve to be a little bit better there. Let me go back in there like that. Let's put this next point here. I'm going to turn off Smart Guides, Command U again. And I'm going to show you, see this has a curve in it here in my drawing. There's no curve here. So let me show you something. Let's get this finished here. So I'm going to just drag something here. I'm going to put this up here. Okay. So let's come back to this, and as I hover over this line segment, I can hold down my Option key and my cursor switches to this kind of points with a line in between. If I hover over, hold down my mouse button and drag, I get a curve. So Illustrator helps me in a segment, in between 2 points, to create that curve by holding down the Option key and getting that particular symbol. Let's come back up here and finish this skull half. So let's try to take this a little bit quicker. I'm going to put a point here. I'm going to put a point here. If you ever want to draw a circle, you can use the circle tool, obviously, or the ellipse tool. But you can also just make a circle from 4 points and then dragging handles and finessing and moving these handles around so that you can get a circular shape. Bring this one down a little bit. It's looking good. Come pick it up again over here. I'm on the outside of this curve, outermost part of that curve. Then I'm going to be on the topmost up here. So what I will do is I will draw this complete curve. I'm going to make it a little more perfect than my drawing below. And then I'm coming back down to my start point here and clicking. So I'm going to close it back up, come up to the top, hold down my Option key and click, and that's going to make that side a corner. And now I can drag this handle up. And that should work right about there. Okay. Yep. See, this top point and this handle point should be about even. We can check that by dragging out a guide. We want it to be kind of even because that's where it'll be circular into the skull. So that's probably good. Okay, so we have this half now of the skull. Let's turn off our template. We got the half of the outline of the skull. So that's good. I think it works pretty well. Let's draw the portion of the nose here. So I'm going to deselect everything and I'm going to click, come down here. I'm going to place it on the outermost part of this curve coming down. Here's the bottom of that curve. Let's put a point here and just drag a little bit. Let's put a point back up. Let's see. That's good. There. Is it lined up perfectly on the other line? No, it's okay for right now. Let's see. Let's drag this up and smooth this out a little bit more, so you can get really quick. In fact, what I'm going to do is in the next video, or not the next video, but the next part of this. I'm going to speed it up even more. So let's see. Command U, that's going to allow me to put that handle back over top. There we go. Pull this down, this point. And I will drag that out, kind of smooth out this top part of the nose. I guess on a skeleton that could be a little more jagged. If we want to smooth it even more, we can do that kind of thing. See, I'm making it a little smoother and dragging it away. Okay. Getting into the details here. Okay, so let's see here. The next part of this that I want to work on is, let's go to the ribbon. We could even go to the bell too. Let's do this bell. So I'm on the guide. I have my smart guides turned on again. Command U or Control U. I will click on this center part, and then I'm going to put a point here. Remember, it's kind of this outside of the curve on this. So this is a good natural spot to put that. So let's do that. And then it's going to curve in to here, and I'll show you what we can do over here in a second. So I can hold down my Option key. Temporarily, it gives me access to the handle above and smooth out that curve. That looks pretty good. I can hold down my Command key and grab this point that I just made, put it back in there. Let me turn off my smart guides again. Command U on the Mac. So I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click here after I turn those back on. It's a lot of going back and forth with the smart guides, but it helps us align things. Close that up. And if you remember correctly, if we hold down our Option key with the pen tool, we get temporary access to this curvature type of thing. It's not really the curvature tool, but it allows us to take a segment and make it curved. Let's go between here, and you can see we got that like that. Looks pretty good. This handle down here, I'm going to make that, I'm going to hold down my Command key and my Shift key, and I'm going to just make it a horizontal handle. The reason why is because I want it to feed perfectly into the other side. So if it's horizontal, that means it's coming down perfectly and it's going to pick up on the other side. The same goes for this up here. What I'll do is I'll drag out a handle, holding down my Shift key on the left side, and then I'm going to take this and snap it back to this point. I have smart guides turned on, so that allows me to do that. I'm going to pull this down, I'm going to pull this over. Lots of little adjustments in between the two handles. That will help. Let's turn it off for a second, take a look. That looks pretty good. So I see this curve over here. I want to bring your attention to something that we can do really quickly. So if we select that point with the direct selection tool, you see this little donut shape. If I have just that point selected, I can grab that and we'll round it out a little bit more by introducing new curves. So if you want to get a little bit rounded in the corners, those edges there in the corner, you can do that by selecting that point, and then you can also take it back out if you ever want to reset it by selecting that donut. So I'm going to make it a little more curved. There we go, and let's pull this over slightly, and let's make this a little more vertical. I think that looks pretty good. Let's do that. There we go. So that looks pretty good. We got the half of the bell drawn. Let's do this one. This one should be a little more fun, I think. So let's try a few techniques here. I'm going to click here. And then I'm just going to click and drag to the left. And then I'm going to put a point here. Again, we're going to the outermost part. That would be the leftmost edge. It's coming out of this shape. Let's put this, I'm actually going to put this here. Then I'm going to put another one here. Let's see. This one's a little bit more crazy. We got a little angle here, so I'm going to just drag in the direction of that angle and then finish it off there. So it looks terrible. That's fine. You can see where this kind of crosses over here. That, from this point down to this point, it might be a good place to put a point showing you where it's intersecting, it's crossing over the drawing. So let's put a point there. And then what I'll do is I will hold down my Option key. That'll give me access to that handle. And you can see that's a pretty good call there. So let's just try to line it up as much as possible. I got my Command key held down. Remember, we're trying to get this side to be relatively equal to this side. That'll make it a little smoother. So they're about the same right now. This one's about the same. Let's move this up. I'm going to pull this point over. Again, just holding down the Command or Control key, depending on whether you're on a Mac or PC, and the Option or Alt key, again, depending on whether you're on the Mac or PC, and the Shift key. Those are really the three keys that you will need to use to make adjustments like this. So this one's not, let's do this. Let's hold down Option, drag out, still holding down Option. Let's try to get this point like that. I'm holding down Shift just for fun. So that looks pretty good. Let's pull it down a little. And now it's starting to match the drawing. I want to make that vertical. I've just found that if you keep your anchor points largely vertical or horizontal, you'll usually end up with something pretty clean. Doesn't always have to be that way, nor does your artwork always allow for that. But usually you get some good results that way. So let's pull this in. I think I messed this one up a little. Let's shorten this. Put this down. Try to get that even. Come back up to this. Create a new area there. Let's put this back. And let's tweak things with this one. So see, I'm keeping that horizontal there. It's looking pretty good. It's a little bit crazy in here. But just adjusting things, making little adjustments. This I know is good. Something's not right in there. It might be, yeah, that we just need to kind of keep it a little more like that. There we go. Let's just give that a shot and see what we get. All right. Turn off the guide below and you can see. And again, I see a little bit of an issue in here. Not huge, but I want to smooth that out a little bit. It's still looking a little crazy to me. Okay. We've drawn a lot of shapes here. All right, now let me get to the ribbon here. There's a couple of ways to do this. I am going to just do what we've been doing. Some people will draw a rectangle and then warp it, and I'm not going to do that for this. I'm just going to use my pen tool as much as possible. This should be pretty easy though if I just click and do this. What do you think we'll do here? So if we hover again over a segment and hold down our Option or Alt key, we can drag this into position. You can kind of see that. It makes something that would take a lot longer much faster. Okay, so we got this part of the ribbon. We can perfect it the way we want now with the handles. We can drag certain things, make it a little more smooth. The arch could be a little bit better, but you know, I'm just gonna leave it. We're gonna follow this as closely as possible. So if I turn on my smart guides, let's see, Command U. Here's what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna put a point here. This is supposed to be vertical. I'm going to click here Yep, it's not on that line, but you'll see why in a second. I'm going to put another one here and then another one here. So I made a triangle. Now what I will do is I will select this shape with my selection tool, and I will select the triangle shape. And I'm going to come over to my shape builder tool. So this is in my tools panel. I have what's called the shape builder tool. Let's drag this out a little bit. It's this tool here that has kind of some circles and a direct selection tool there. It's called the shape builder. If you select that and then you mouse over the shapes that you have selected, again we selected the triangle and this curved shape, you can now hold down your mouse or whatever you're using. You can hold down the button, and this plus symbol is with the cursor, and you can drag through the shapes that you want to unite. So I just dragged through. I essentially all I did was draw through the shapes and then let go. We now have a triangle and this shape separated. Okay. So they're triangle, but they are in perfect alignment. That means this is following this line perfectly, and this line, they share the same exact part there, even though they're different shapes. Let's do it again. This time I am going to use, for this lower part of the ribbon, I'm actually going to start here. I can line up on the point that's already there. I'm going to click, click, click. I'm going to put that there and come back down. Okay. Now I'm going to hold down my Option key and bend these in parts of the ribbon, make them a little bit more organic, not so rigid. And that looks good. Let's turn that off for a second, just take a look. Yeah, I think that works. Looks natural. Okay. Now we will select this shape, and the triangle. Okay, so they all are selected. I have 3 shapes. I know it's difficult to see. If I hold down my Shift key, you can see I have everything, or my space bar, and you can see everything is selected there. Okay, great. Get that shape builder tool. Come back over here and let's unite the parts that we want. So we want this and this, and we want this and this. And now we have the 3 parts to the ribbon. It's kind of neat. If you ever want to delete shapes, you would use the shape builder tool and hold down the Option key. It'll become a negative symbol, and then you can also drag through things that you want to delete. I see a little issue up here in this ribbon, this part right here, it's sticking. See how it's not horizontal? That means that when it unites with the other side, it's going to, we're going to want to fix these. It's going to be kind of at an angle. So let's fix those. I'm going to bring that back down. I'm holding down my Shift key and kind of aligning things. And then this bottom one, I'll just put that back like that. That's pretty good. Okay. Great. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, so we have drawn this skull. Let's turn off the guides. We've drawn the skull. We have drawn the ribbon and the bell and half the heart and this. So here's what I want to do now. I think I want to do this just so you can see the concept. I'm going to come back up here. Let me just fine tune a few things. I guess that's okay. We'll find out here. The first thing I want to do is, you see this bone of the nose, or this interior part of the nose, the nostril area? I'm actually going to drag that over a little bit, like that. Okay, you'll see why here in a second. I'm going to select the skull outline. That's everything that you see there. Okay, and then I'm going to Shift click and select the nose. And then I'm going to open up the Pathfinder panel. Now watch what we can do here. There's different options that allow us to unite shapes, to subtract shapes, to intersect shapes, exclude. There's a lot of different things we can do here. What I want to do is I want to minus the front. So here's what I will do. I will make sure that this part of the nose, the nostril area, is at the front. So I can come up to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. That's just to ensure that it's at the front. And when I do this minus front function in the Pathfinder tool, you'll see what happens. So I can select that, select the nose, and then click on minus front. And what that did is it took out that shape and kind of punched through and left us with this cut here. Okay? Pretty cool what you can do when you use the Pathfinder tool. We could have used the Shape Builder tool also. That would have worked just fine. Just wanted to show you another method for that.